Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I used to enjoy doing websites, but
Okay.
that kind of the fun has gone out of it for me. So I don't know what you can do to help with that, but
So what you're saying, John, is you've lost that love and feeling.
yeah,
Okay.
for doing website work at least.
John, do you have a website? You may want to put it in the chat, and then we can bring it up. And then what are you using as your hosting, your website, all of the fun things? What are your
Okay.
do you know what you're using?
Well, my host is SiteGround,
Okay.
and it's a WordPress website.
Okay, so you're just a WordPress, all right. Do you have a URL that I could pull up real quick?
I'm
No problem.
connected in.
Let's see.
Visited this in a while. I hope it all still works.
All right, fluid space theory. All right. So, John, is the hope around this? Oh wow, very nice. Do you know what theme you're using for your website?
Theme.
Yeah, the skin of your website.
No, when I started with WordPress, they had like thousands of templates you can use. Well, great.
Yeah,
How long is it going to take you to go through 1,000 templates? And so this
10,000 hours.
built
Yeah.
for me. I didn't build this.
Okay. Well, your website is actually very in line with, say, my website or the sample website that I built for this meeting here. So your design and look and feel is very, it's very nice. So you have a dual thing here, right? You're doing both your fiction and your nonfiction work, or do you want to lump it all together? Is that part of the confusion, or is it?
It's got my fiction and my nonfiction. It's just books basically.
Yeah,
It's a category of my books.
just everything. So
Everything.
what's difficult? How often do you need to update stuff? What is the pain that you feel then specifically? Because it looks really good design wise.
Well, when I want to add new white papers to the fluid space theory section, I don't know how to do that.
Okay. So are you using your blog to do that?
I don't think I've done a blog in years.
Okay.
I have not actually touched this probably in a year or so.
Okay. So Sydney Gillis, I think I'm gonna mute you. I think I was getting some feedback on your phone real quick. Sorry about that. So where do you put your white papers then? Is it some hidden page?
It's not it's hidden if you go to the let's see,
Like the fluid
space theory, yeah, where it says either learn more, or probably if you click on that fluid space theory section, and then down below there are pages. If you scroll down,
I get it.
It says new paper coming,
All
different
right.
ones, how Mach was a dunce.
Okay. Okay. So
Kind of stuff. Yeah.
got it. And then this is just a link to the books. So you're using. Okay. So you have other.
That's a sub page, or each series, will have a sub page.
Okay. So not all of your content is listed on your front page. Like when I click on your fluid space theory, when I come down here, this ring mirror relativity problem, rocket on a tether thought experiment, these are all separate posts within your.
Yeah, you can bring them up, and there'll be like a PDF.
Yes. Like John, I have to tell you, it's really good looking, right? This whole embedded viewer is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the way they built it. There's the football field. How the ball is actually flying in a straight line, but it actually looks like it's going in a curve because you're being accelerated by gravity.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, probably my suggestion would be to use your blog as a way to push out things that are not books, right? Or is everything here something purchasable, like all of these papers?
No, the papers are all free. You can download the PDFs or read them online.
Okay, so
So
you put them on your
all the
website.
books, yeah, the books, all the books have a link to the Amazon page, which is the only place I have them right now.
Okay. So every time I say like this ring mirror relativity problem, sorry, there's a little feedback here. That one doesn't have a link, but this previous one did right here to purchase an ebook, Fluid Space Theory.
Yeah.
Is that part of the larger part of your book, which is the Einsteins and Aliens?
And Aliens has the whole fluid space theory.
Got it. Okay, check. All right. Well, then what I would suggest is just to use your blog then to push out new content and have that be your, whenever you're coming up with some new paper or a white paper or something of that nature, to use your blog as that catalyst to publish, and then use your front page, which you have nicely organized here, for all your print books.
Yeah.
And then in your blog post reference the ebooks that you can buy.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I haven't. I could add a pop-up for newsletter or something. Can come in anywhere, right?
Yeah, correct. And so in this talk, we're not going to specifically talk about any of the pop-ups. I'm going to do that in 2 weeks, like what plugins you want to use. But we will talk a little bit about a way that you can incorporate something like this in your design. Like when you land here, you have this learn more. You can add in here in this carousel, like sign up to my newsletter, and have one of the buttons be to go do that, right? The link here, the hyperlink will be to go sign up for your newsletter, that type of thing. And we'll talk about that in the talk today. So that's a small improvement there. But like if you're just posting stuff, I would probably use your blog and use the blog stuff to do that. And in the following talk, in 2 weeks, I have some plugins that will help make posting new content easy for you.
Okay.
So you don't feel like you have to redo it. And then maybe after this talk, if you want to stick around a few minutes, because if it's still sticking point, I can show you what I do on the co-op website whenever I do a new post. Like, for example, on the writers co-op here, I'm sorry, everybody, I know we're dipping into the meeting right now, but every one of these posts here, John, is a blog post. And, for me to redo every single time, every piece of structure, like the text, images and whatnot, that would be just pulling your hair out, right? And there's some nice plugins that I use to help make that easier to do. So I can make a dozen posts in an hour type of thing. And then I can schedule them. So instead of like doing a little bit every day, you can do a lot of work one day and then schedule your posts out, that type of thing. So yeah, so we can talk a little bit about that later. Maybe after the meeting, if you want to stick around, we can chat a little bit about it. But I'll have probably more information for you on the next meeting. This first meeting is going to be a little bit of a beginner.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, cool. All right, so sorry about that, guys. Edward, you are on as well, and you also had emails about things you wanted to have done. And would you mind closing your webcam or turning your webcam off? It's the video button right in the center.
How's that?
Yeah, perfect. So you had an email regarding something.
So you didn't want to look at me. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, just the opposite, Edward. You are too good looking. It would be distracting.
You should see me with my mask and sunglasses when I go into a bank.
Even though everyone is muted, I can hear them laughing.
All right, so here's the situation. I have a website, but it stopped working. It was in cooperation with my publisher. And what I want to do is I want to just redesign a whole new website.
Okay, perfect. Well, then great. This talk will be a great intro on how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what I'll attempt to do on my own is to transfer some of the information from the old website into a new format.
Okay, cool. All right, great. Then I'll make sure to mention certain points of the talk that would are places where you will be interested. So,
Okay.
all right, great. So, but Edward, I'm going to mute you because we like to keep everyone muted to keep it nice and quiet during the talk. But if you have any questions, obviously you can throw that in the chat window. Hello, everybody. I know it's a little bit of a late intro, and I'm sorry we're getting started a little bit late, but I just wanted to I had some emails from specific people, and I wanted to get some context of what they were doing, what they needed. So today's meeting, remember to mute yourself, turn off your webcams, all the necessary things. So today I'm going to be giving a talk about websites. I'm going to call this the 102 class, which is kind of, I gave a talk about a year ago about websites, and these slides are very similar. That was kind of the 101. I made a couple small tweaks, so I'm calling it the 102. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to do the 202 class, and that will be a little bit more in depth on some more wonky subject matter, such as plugins, landing pages, blogging, things of that nature. So we're going to hold off that till the following talk to try to keep this one as short as possible. After that, I don't know what we're going to be doing, but I think maybe Linda, if you wanted to unmute yourself, do we have a talk after the next one, or do we not know yet? I don't know. Maybe she's typing something.
Yeah, we do have one scheduled, and it's Laurel is coming up to talk about my God, my brain's gone, about intellectual property, copyright, all that sort of thing.
Perfect. All right, I'll add that in there. Okay, great. So Laura will talk about IP and copyright, and then maybe at the end of the meeting, Joel will tell us how terrible of a human being I am for being 1 month late on all my edits on my short story in the anthology. And then at the very, very end of this meeting, I'm going to have a cover question that goes out to maybe everybody who's here regarding something I want to do. And I just wanted to see if I can pull in a few people who might be interested. So we'll hold that to the end. But other than that, remember, if you have any questions in your Skype window, there's this chat button. It brings in the chat window, and you can type in the chat message here, hello. I'm going to try to double team it and see if I can keep up on the chat window. But if I miss your question in the chat window, maybe Susan or Linda or Tony can chime in and ask me that question, so that I don't lose touch with somebody who may have a question. All right, if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk today about web pages. Just to mention, this is being recorded, and I've been recording for the last 13 minutes or so. So if you have any questions, or if you're unsure about something and you wanted to come back to this, I will post the YouTube video via email shortly after the meeting, so that people can rewatch, and then you can also follow up on questions. And then all the slides in this talk are on our members site already. So if you wanted to pull them up while we go along, you can maybe make some notes there as well. So today we're going to be talking about web pages and kind of a lot more, but web pages is kind of a large, it's a large piece of the pie of your digital landscape. So for a lot of time, putting together a web page is the first time you are going to actually put yourself out there. For very often, it actually comes ahead of your first book. So for a lot of people, it's kind of nerve-wracking getting your website up, making sure it's designed correctly, making sure it has the right look and feel, and that can be a great source of anxiety. And so hopefully today we can alleviate some of those fears and help simplify what you do at first, and then maybe you can grow from there. But the overarching idea that we want to really keep in our heads today is being simple and minimalist. So it limits the amount of work, it really focuses what we're doing, and it helps make it easier for the reader to understand what we're trying to put out there. Okay, so I have this slide that I've been putting up for the last year or so, and I kind of title it as the author digital ecosystem. And each one of these bullets is a huge chunk of the pie of you marketing yourself to the world. Obviously, the first one is the book and distribution systems that we all know about, like the KDP dashboard and putting your book on Amazon and things like that. For a lot of people, that's the first time they actually touch the idea of putting their work out to the wild. The next thing is a website, and that's the first thing we always think about is websites, blogs, vlogs. We won't talk about blogs and vlogs today. We'll probably hold that off to the next talk. But today we're going to really focus on websites, and you can see it's one of the first bullet points, and it's like a huge array of things you got to do. And this is the first thing. This is very often the first thing we want to put together. So the hardest thing is the forest through the trees. So if you don't know why you're doing something, you'll waste time doing a little bit of everything. And so what I like to do is talk about simplifying your messaging, simplifying what you're doing. No matter where you are in the process, keep it simple and grow from there. So the first thing we want to do is ask, what does our author website do? Well, it does two things. Number one, it points people towards our books. So where do I go buy your books? And then the second thing it should do is connect to the readers. And a lot of times that is newsletter sign up, social media, email. Some people think about connecting to their readers as a branding, and we'll talk a little bit about that, having a look and feel that is consistent with the readers, with the genre, with what you're trying to do, and basically wrapping people into you as a brand. And so we'll talk a little bit about that at the end, about how we can connect to our readers, not only just physically connecting to them where it's email, social media and whatnot, but actually connecting with them with respect to the colors we choose, what type of genre we're doing, things of that nature. But we have to, understand that websites can be scary. So Techie McTeckenstein is my monster now that I've invented. A lot of people are afraid of the tech to actually create a website, doing the back end, like we heard from John. I got to update my website all the time. That's really scary or really confusing. Why do I have to spend so much time on it? And hopefully what we'll do is we'll try to put together a plan on how people can put together their website, how they can manage their website so that it is easy to manage, easy to come back to. And then also we run into this issue of our perfectionism, right? It's hard enough for us to write a book. We want the book to be perfect. We spend a lot of time on it. And what happens is that perfectionism spills over onto our websites, and hopefully we can alleviate a little bit of that fear that tends to impact us. So the first thing we want to do is with websites, because it is a tech thing, there's often very issues with terms of art, TOAs. First thing we want to understand is a URL. So that's basically the address of your website. And what I like to do is with these 4 bullets here is to kind of make a metaphor to like your house, right? So the first thing is the URL, which is like your address to your house. So that's www.yoursite.com or matthewbuza.com or whatever. Next is the hosting, which is the company that provides the server space. So somewhere out in a cold environment or out in a cheap land area, there are giant buildings that have giant computer systems on it. They're going to host your website. And these ISPs and these hosting companies buy space on there, and then you pay them, and they make a little bit of money off the top. And they store your website there for as long as you pay them. Which is similar to the land that your house or your condo or your apartment is sitting on. So the next thing is the website backend. And when I say backend, that means this is the structure underneath the website that everybody sees. So they see this beautiful, simple website. For example, we saw John's website a little bit earlier, a simple, elegant, structured website. Well, behind that is a lot of code. And there's, in essence, it's the kitchen to the restaurant, right? It's the front porch to the inside of your house. So it's the inside of your house is the back end. So this is very similar. So we've heard words as like WordPress, Weebly, Wix. You can also have things like Drupal that are more custom. These are the back end systems that we use to update our website, to maintain the theme, to add new stuff. And that can be very scary to look at. And interact with. For a lot of people, it's the first time they've ever interacted with something like that. And then the last one is the theme. And obviously that's the skin of your web page. This is the things that visitors and readers will see. And it's similar to the exterior of your house. And we want to make sure the theme of our house looks simple and easy to understand so that people can make the right decision when they drive by our house. They want to stop and spend some money, right? Or stop and sign up for our newsletter. So these are the terms of art we'll start with here. So I have 6 bullet points, and we're going to go through each one of these today, and there'll be a lot of slides for each one of these bullet points. But the first thing we're going to talk about are the various options we all have. And I know a lot of the people in this call, let's see who's here. a lot of the people in this call already have websites. So maybe what I'll do is I will jump through this, but Edward, I know, is looking to do it for the first time. So I want to make sure I go through it in a very simple manner here. So the first thing you want to do is make a good choice to start. If anybody's telling you they're going to spend $3,000 to build your website, I'm going to host it for you, that is a big red flag that you want to run up the flagpole and say, no, I don't want that. Okay, you do not have to spend that amount of money, and you should not have somebody else host your website for you where they make the updates for you. That causes a problem of you wanting to make updates or you having to pay for every time you want to make a blog post. And those are kind of scary situations that a lot of people can find money seeping out of their wallet as they want to add things to their website. And I don't like to see people get into those situations. And this is a cooperative. And so a lot of people in this co-op do websites. We frequently update our websites. And so you should lean on the people in this group to help you through the process of either setting up a website or managing your website, and not feel like you have to go it alone and go out there and engage with somebody else. We have a lot of that expertise in-house. And so I encourage anyone who's out there who's trying to get a website started to look to the people in the group first, because we're good resources for you, and we're pretty cheap. Most people work for free. I work for free and editing. But we want to make sure that you make the right choice. So there's typically 3 routes that you want to choose, and I'm going to leverage heavily on the first 2. I'm going to kind of push people away from the last one, only because there's such a you're right, Tony, we'll trade skills. It's a good thing. The first 2 are probably the best route for anybody who comes into the group. The last one is really for people who have more of a tech experience. So we're going to talk about the free route, a paid hosting route, and the DIY route maybe at the end. All right. So the first thing is what I always like to tell people: if they have 1 or 2 or 3 books, they don't know if they're going to publish a lot more going forward. It was kind of a one-off memoir. I don't know if I'm going to continue this. I don't know really what I'm doing, but I need to have a website. I say the best thing you can do is go free. And there are 2 great companies that do this. WordPress and Weebly offer free websites. So this would be your website URL. That would not be www.yourwebsite.com. It would be www.wordpress.yourwebsite.com or weebly.yourwebsite.com. Because it's being hosted on their website, they will very often maybe run a small ad on your website to cover the costs. But it is a free route that a lot of people should consider. Now, what's great about both of these companies is that if you choose to go and migrate to a unique URL, meaning like I go from their website to my own URL, while keeping the same website, they offer you that option to migrate. And that can be a very useful feature for a lot of people. Also, it allows you to test whether or not you want to use WordPress or you want to use somebody like Weebly without actually using any money. You can go home today, create a free WordPress account, web page, or a free Weebly page, and I'll show you one that I made today, or I've made in the past, and we'll show you it today, and how that is a good way to test whether or not you like certain frameworks or not, certain backends, or I like these themes versus these themes. And this is a great way to test that without actually spending any money. But if you do want to go big and you're in it for the long game, sorry, I'm shifting in my chair, then going paid is a good route. What do you get when you go paid? Well, a lot of times it takes away a lot of the technical hurdles because they do offer support. Also, they offer a lot more beautiful themes that are ready to go. A lot of times when you get the free themes, you have to do a lot of work and a lot of tech work to make it look like what you saw. In this case, it's a simple 1-button click and say, I want this theme, and boom, it magically appears. And that's really a powerful feature. It takes away a lot of the decision making and a lot of the fear of building a website that a lot of people have. And it's also easy to maintain and easy to set up. And very often you're paying for both your URL, so it's your unique website, and also the hosting all in one package. And it can be about $150, I think, somewhere in that range, whether you use Squarespace, Weebly, or Wix. Good examples of this, I think Susan runs Squarespace on hers. So if you want to go to susanbrownwrites.com, you can see a good example of that, of what a Squarespace website looks like that falls into that kind of that beautiful theme, paying for my hosting, kind of set it and forget it. Now I know it does not mean it's easy to use in the least sense, because I've used some of the Squarespace stuff. It can be challenging, but it does alleviate a little bit of those hurdles. So if you are going to go paid, I do press a lot of people to say maybe choose one of these three options going forward. Finally, the DIY people. Obviously, you can go a number of places to do your hosting, and the hosting will offer the installation of WordPress as the option. There's a couple other platforms that you can do. And Sydney, feel free to type that email that I see Sydney typing in the chat box. When you finish typing, I'll try to answer your question. The DIY people, you have a number of options: Bluehost, HostGator, GoDaddy. John used another website that was different from these, but I use GoDaddy. Unfortunately, I really encourage people not to use GoDaddy. I also include a link there for a few other hosting companies that have been reviewed. Bluehost is pretty good. HostGator is good, so feel free to use those. I would really push away from GoDaddy. I'm so deep into it that I can't get out. I'm really in a swamp. So I pay for, and Sydney says, I pay for InMotion $160 a year, but chose a WordPress backend and find a lot of technical hurdles. Did I mess up? So no, Sydney, you didn't. Those technical hurdles that you're running into on your WordPress backend is just the challenges of running WordPress and the theme that goes behind it. And that's part of that technical issue and part of the technical hurdles that a lot of people have. So John uses SiteGround, and I think it's run by Russians based on the grammar. That's nice. Sydney, maybe we can at the end of the talk, if you want to have some more deeper questions about what's difficult about WordPress, maybe we can get into that at the end, because I'd like to hear what type of challenges you have and what challenges you're finding. But if you are, so going back to the talk, if you are doing the DIY, it is great for multiple endeavors. So for example, if you're running your author website, but I also want to run a podcast, and then I also want to run a nonfiction thing, right? It's great for you to have multiple websites under the common hosting. But if you're just going to be an author and you're just going to have the one website, it's really good to just go with one of the other hosting platforms, because it just makes it easier. Otherwise, you have to manage hosting, you have to manage multiple URLs, and it can be very, very challenging to do that. And even for me, I'm a decently technically competent person, and GoDaddy is very challenging to manage, and from my standpoint alone. So it's one of the things, like doing it yourself is kind of a scary route, and I really want to push people away from that as much as possible. Not to mention, I mean, doing the paid route with Squarespace, Weebly, and Wix is kind of a do-it-yourself, but it's kind of it's like an all-in-one package versus like an a la carte, which is what the DIY people do. So hopefully that answers questions and it didn't make that too confusing. But those are the three routes that we want to go. So let's talk a little bit about meta design decisions. So this is like things above your website. So I've been trying to come up with this idea of cultivating the reader mindset, understanding who you are as an author, as a brand, as a platform, as a publisher, all these things that we're trying to be, but looking at yourself from the reader's standpoint. You know, the readers are people who give us money. I always say customers are people who give you money. Listen to your customer, right? See yourself from their point of view, that your brand has to be clear to the customer. And this goes back to that idea that our website should be as clear to the customer as our branding is, right? Who you are, what genre you're doing, what books you're writing, what are you trying to communicate and come across? The website should be part of that. And we want to make sure that's as simple as it can be. And Kevin Hart there obviously saying, you know, do I actually have to talk to my customers? And unfortunately, we introverts, yes, we do. We have to listen to our customers. So a couple keys to starting your webpage. Before you actually begin to do it, you need to know, well, what do I need to have in there, right? The first thing we need to do is have the consideration of how much time people spend on our website, right? So if they come to your website from wherever they come, however they get there, right? Very often, most of the users who are coming to our website are going to be on mobile, depending on the genre, but most of the people who are coming to our website are on mobile devices. This includes iPads, tablets, like an Android tablet, a phone, Android, Apple phones. These are mobile users, and they do not spend a lot of times on websites. Desktop user will give you a little bit more time because they're kind of rooted in a place. Think about a mobile user maybe on sitting in line at the grocery store. They might be on the couch, whatever. You have a very limited amount of time, so we want to make sure that our website gets to them within that time frame, and we don't confuse them in that time frame, because they can tend to pull the parachute and eject themselves out. Next thing we want to talk about is most places, all our information should be on the front page, the front landing page. That's links to books, signing up to our newsletter. They get the gist right up front. Now, we can have stuff that's kind of buried away, and John, I don't want to say bury it away, but John's website at the beginning there is a good example of that. He has some like kind of wonky papers and things like that maybe not every user wants to look at, and that's a good place to put that on your blog. But John wants to sell books. John wants to get people to buy his stuff or get interested in his theory or whatever. And that's the thing we want to put up front, and we want to put that on the landing page as much as possible. Next, we want to have a hook, some type of hook that keeps the person there, because they've come to my webpage and I want to capture them for as much as possible before they go away and flit away and go do whatever the next Facebook post they're interested in or whatnot. And we want to be able to capture that email to put into our mailing list, and that's a big thing. We've talked about that for a number of years now. It's being able to capture that mailing list. Next, you want to showcase your books, obviously, and we'll talk about how to do that and what we're looking for in design. Next, you want to connect to them, social media, email, however you want to do that. Tends to be at the end, but we want to be able to give them the option to like us and friend us. And then finally, just kind of the structure, the grid, serialized layouts of the books, and we'll talk a little bit of how to do that, what we're looking for, and why that's important. Easy buttons to click our products, and finally, no blogging until 2 weeks from now when we'll talk about blogging. So up front, if you're starting a website, very often we don't want to go right into blogging. We want to kind of ease into that because blogging is a huge commitment. We all know that. Let's see. So Diana says, so my website gives me stats on how long people stay. Is that really useful or actionable? Actually, it very, very much is. Yeah, Diana, it is. We want to try to get our views up, and then we want to make sure people are staying on our web page so that it's compelling, that there's things that are interesting. But we have to gauge that. We may not be looking for somebody to stay on our website for 50 minutes. We may need to stay on our website for 50 seconds because that's how long it takes for them to sign up for our newsletter. So we do want to measure on how long we want to keep people there. But yes, those are good analytics to have, but not something that you have to stress out about too much, because that's something that a blogger would think about. Because we're getting people on our website, we want them to read through our entire blog post and then do some action at the end. So time on the website is an important thing. We have a very simple website. A lot of times someone might come in, they may sign up for your newsletter or scroll down, click on buy your book, and then boom, they're off to Amazon. And if you think about how much time that is, that might be 5, 10, 15 seconds to get them back to Amazon. So you may want to be looking at analytics on your clicks, how many people are coming to your website, but maybe not worry about how long people are on your website. Kind of the thing. So Sydney, I've been a journalist with thousands of articles to feature. How do I present that on my landing page? So that's great. So this is a great point. This is very much in line with what John was saying. How do I have a lot of content. How do I present that to users? This is great. Somebody who publishes a lot, you want to think, Sydney, you want to think of your webpage as sort of like, if you go to like a good indie journalist blog, right, or a website, they tend to put the most interesting or most important content right up front. And they may have, you may have a number of pieces on a certain thing. Maybe you're writing, you had a whole long series of journalistic outings on the salmon, right? And you may want to put a button there or a link there that showcases all your salmon articles or something like that. But you probably want to put forward the most important thing that you want to put forward. Maybe that's very often your latest piece, or the one you just won an award for, or the one you're going to be giving a talk about, right? You can move your content up. And very often you want to showcase that on your blog, but your web page can actually promote your blog as well. You may have books that you want to sell, and then you may show a serialized view of your blog, and you can order your blog to put the highest, most important content up front. Sorry, because my kids are coming back in the house. You may put your most important content up front. So I'll hop out of the talk right here, and I'll actually give you a good example of that here. I'll go to the Writers Co-op website, And the Writers Co-op website is actually just a giant blog. Each one of these is the blog post. But what I've done is I've pinned our horror book as our number one thing. And so this is a good example of what I would do for you, is to pin the most important item, right? And that may change over time. So you may have your last 4 pieces right here, but this is the one that I'm really proud of from this year, and I want to pin this. Or, hey, I'm giving a talk next week at University of Washington, and people are going to come to my website after that. Boom, I want to pin that talk, or pin that article that references that talk. Things of that nature is ways to kind of handle that. Hopefully that answers your question. We'll talk a little bit more about blogging in about 2 weeks. So my landing page scrolls every 10 seconds to another book. Okay, so John, you're talking about like a dynamic web page. So John's website, if you have something that dynamically scrolls or dynamically shows new content, that's a good thing. If you have a blog that it has a progressive display, that's a feature that sometimes blogs have. If you guys are fans of Reddit, if you scroll on Reddit and you get to the bottom of it, they don't say go to next page. It just immediately shows you the next 50 articles, right? Those type of things. Hopefully, John, is that what you're talking about? Let's see, he's typing right now, hoping that they lose it and captures them. Sometimes so we do have to remember, John, like if somebody's on your blog and they're reading your content and they're scrolling through your content, you've got an engaged reader. And this is like, in the Venn diagram of all the readers, this is somebody who's sticking around. So it's okay to let them scroll through your work if that's what you're hoping for, hoping they lose less attention as it recaptures them. Yeah, so hopefully that answered your question. Maybe we could talk a little bit about it more if you wanted to chime in a few. So let's just keep moving because we got a lot to cover. John, hold your question at the end. Maybe we can talk about it then. So the next thing I always like to say is you got about 3 clicks and then you lose. Again, this is the mobile issue. This is the people who are on their devices, people who are quick on the go. You tend to have about 2 or 3 clicks before people say, it's just too much work. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I've clicked into. So very often you have a third-party website, Google, Facebook, something of that nature, comes to your webpage some way. They scroll down, see the book they like, they click on it. Now they're on Amazon, and then they click to purchase. So there's about 3 clicks there. And you can see you can imagine how you as a reader would go through that. And do you want to put a click 3A, 3B, 3C in there? So now they've had to click 6 times to finally get to buying your book. That's not something we want to do, right? That's the famous story about Bezos, I think, when he wanted the 1-click purchase button, that the engineers went and made that, but they actually made it 2 clicks. They made a click and then it was like, are sure you want to buy this? And Bezos like, that's not what I asked for. I want a 1-click. I want that impulse buy. Now, some of us would see that as a negative, but if you're trying to limit the time between decision and purchase, that's what they finally implemented, that if you click that button, you've bought that item. We want to try to approach the same methodology with our stuff. We don't want to bury books deep into a bunch of clicks before they actually can buy it. We want to limit the amount of clicking, limit the amount of decisions or distractions that could take a user away from buying our stuff. I know that sounds kind of nefarious, because we look at it as, you're trying to scam the user and have him make an impulse buy on your book. But we do want to limit the barriers. And I don't think that's a nefarious thing. We want to try to make it as easy as possible for them to purchase, to make an honest purchase of our books. So remove those barriers is a big thing that I like to push. The next thing, is if we're talking about meta and we're talking about designing our website and we're doing whatnot, the idea of clean your room, right? What does your website communicate to the reader? Right? Do you have a nice, clean website that's very simple and thoughtful, and simple bed with a simple chair surrounded by your succulents? Or do you have a hoarder's website where you have everything, I don't know where it is, and my book that you want to buy is right up here on the shelf, it's red, and it's buried between a bunch of other stuff, right? This type of analogy can help the user understand what you're doing, help them ease those barriers, obviously the barriers to purchase. So want to see how we're doing this. And if you must rationalize to yourself that the reader must wade through your clutter, don't be surprised when they leave or they don't make a purchase, right? Let's see, we've got some. Oh, Linda, you have a Hoarder website. I didn't say your name, but if you want to be the Hoarder website, that's fine. Let's see. Diana said, I put my buy button. It came with my website library because I had no books. Yep. Slating. Now that I do have some books, I find that the library put the button back. Okay, well, maybe we'll talk about that in some other time. But yeah, we want to make sure that we have a simple website, very simple, clean, easy to understand. That goes back to that overarching simplicity idea that we're trying to run through this whole talk. Good examples of that, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but my website I feel is pretty simple and clean. And a good example of another good example is Tori, who hasn't shown up to the meetings in a while, but she has a good example of a very simple website. And then I have a couple others here: Eric Carter, Mark Dawson, Amanda Lee, David Sedaris. These are good examples of websites, and I have a couple of them actually pulled up. So Tori's website here, very simple. Her latest release. She has some links at the top, but very simple. A good write-up, and then join my mailing list. And that's all it is. It's super simple, super sweet. Hits the point. Mine, I have a capture your newsletter. Here's my books, and links to a blog background, and I have more content down at the bottom. But the most important stuff is right up front. Mark Dawson is my favorite. All he wants is your email address. This is literally his webpage. You can click here to get your books, but he knows the important thing for him is your email address. Let's see, do I have any others? Actually, John's was very nice. I like John's. Very simple, very clean, very similar to that structure that we like to see. So again, very simple and clean. So these are good examples, and you can click on those later to help inspire you on what you're trying to do. Let's go ahead and get this talk started. Trenery, RolandTrenery.com. Roland, do you really want me to go there? All right, we'll open it up. Yeah, whatever. We've got time. No, he does not. Okay, so I get it. Roland does not want me to go to his website. So the most important thing about simplicity with the websites and the Ronco, I think it's the Ronco Rapid Oven, something like that. I used to watch those infomercials all the time when I was a kid. The set it and forget it. And so for a lot of us, I know John was talking about the fear of doing the posting or doing a lot of work, and there's all this work I have to do. I really feel that, I mean, unless you're publishing often like Linda, a lot of us are only publishing a few times a quarter, maybe once a quarter. Maybe we're doing a blog post or two here, but really all said and done, it should take you about 30 minutes to manage your website, maybe every 2 to 3 months, maybe 60 minutes if you're doing a little bit more rapid release stuff. So there shouldn't really be a big burden to manage your website, even if you're doing blog posting or you're updating new books. It should be as simple as possible, and we need to automate where we can. So that means hooking up your email capture methodology, blog posting, and making sure that's as easy as possible, that I'm not having to reinvent the wheel on doing that. We really should try to limit the amount of time we're spending on our webpage, because in reality, we want to spend our time writing newsletters. We want to write books. We want to do promotion on Amazon. We don't want to be spending all of our time building up our webpage. Okay, so we want to do, and that goes back to the simplicity. If we have a simple website that is doing the simple things we know they need to have done, we don't have to waste a lot of time. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about website design. And this is my super awesome, spent lots of time on Microsoft Paint building this. Typically, we want to see one of two designs, whether it's a serialized with rows and columns, kind of a grid matrix layout of our books, or we want to see a serialized layout of our books. At the very top, we'll have links to, banner, other pages, simple links, very like our bio, maybe links to like a whole list of our books, things of that nature. Then we have an email opt-in or banner link, we'll call them. We'll talk a little bit about how we're going to build those and make those. Next, we'll have the books, we'll have the info, maybe some more info at the bottom, a bio maybe a little bit, or that's where we'll link our blog. And then finally, we'll have our social links at the bottom. Why is this design important? This is why we asked that. Well, Amazon hires hundreds of thousands of engineers, tens of thousands of engineers to make as much money as humanly possible. And they're doing a really good job at it, especially on their books. And what do? Well, they use a grid format, very similar to what we use. Why? Because they do testing all the time. And they've got the best designers, the best software guys on the planet, and they have the best algorithm testing out there for this industry. And they know what sells and what converts and what is the simplest, easiest design methodology that drives the most amount of sales. And so we want to mimic that as much as possible, use them as a good guide. And you can see here on their top 100 paid for whatever the occult genre, they have a grid layout, 3 by whatever, right? They know this converts. Also, if you do a search, what do we see? We see a serialized format. Now, obviously, they put ads and their sponsored ads in there, but they know this converts and this sells. So we can choose one of the two. We can either do a grid layout or we can do a serialized layout. So yes, Tony says hers is serialized. I know it's serialized because I think I built it for you. Yes, you did. Yes, I did. So if you have a blog, so a lot of times, so let's walk back just a little bit. When we're trying to build our website, very often we're trying to build it from a template or a theme that only allows us to do certain things. Our template or theme may allow us to do a grid format. That's very easy, very much like what you see right now. Or we may have a theme that allows us to easily do a serialized format. What we want to do is structure it within those two frameworks as much as we possibly can. Don't fight the theme. Pick a theme that allows you to do one of these two frameworks. And I'll show you the Weebly website that I made in a little while that allowed me to do that in a very quick manner. So let's talk about themes. Once I started talking about it, let's start talking about it. So the free hosting options for WordPress, they have millions and millions of themes out there. A lot of them you'll pay for, $75, $100, $50, $35. There are some free ones out there that allow you to do this, and I've gone ahead and I've done some of that work for you. So the first one here is a Minnow theme, and I have the link here, but you can actually see it here. They use a serialized format. Each one is a blog post. So we can use the blog posting methodology in a serialized format to post our books. So I'll repeat that. We're using the blog, which comes one after another with the most important at the top, to look like the serialized format that Amazon shows, or the design format that we want in a serialized manner. So Minnow will do that, and that's a free website. Very minimalist. You can see it's very clean, a lot of white. The next one is Eden, and we can see that this is more of a grid format, right? With the nice big banner, with a button that we can use to drive our newsletter sign up. We can then have 3 or more posts here that could be our content, all the books that we publish, with some additional information. We can do bios, we can do other links, social media links, things of that nature. So we can take this theme and change a few pieces to fit the design characteristics that we're looking for. Hopefully that makes sense. So I've included those here for people who are looking at that. The next one is a creative theme. Costs about $75 for one time. It's not perfect, but you can make it work, and I've linked that here as well. Next, for the free hosting option, is Weebly. This is the one I really like. They have 2 themes that allow you to do the design decisions that we talked about. One is the wildlife conservation, and the next one's the burger joint. I don't know if that's what they call it officially, but it's the one with the hamburger. Don't fight the theme. Great advice. Yes, I agree. Don't fight the theme. Try to find the theme that works for you the best as possible. I found that these 2 themes here on Weebly, which, again, this is a free thing. You can sign up today. You can choose it, and I'll show you a website in a few minutes that was made using, I think the wildlife conservation one. So I've done that work for you. Choose one of these, and we can make the theme work for us. If you're going to do the paid hosting, whether it's Squarespace or Wix, I've gone out and found two formats that I like. One is called Avenue. That's for Wix. I'm sorry, Avenue is for Squarespace, and then the Papery is for Wix. Again, you can see the grid layout. I've taken screenshots of those because you can't really link to them. It's a choice that you make when you sign up for them. But we have a grid layout or a horizontal grid layout as well. So again, meeting the needs of the designs that we need, where all you're going to do is replace them with your book covers for the website. Okay, so what should you choose? Contrary to my gut, which is WordPress, my answer is Weebly. And if I were to have started off all over again 4.5 years ago, I would have chosen Weebly instead of WordPress. But I chose WordPress, so I'm pregnant with WordPress. Edward, not clear why anyone would pay for hosting when WordPress or Weebly are free to complete. Some advertising is only downside. Edward, that's a great comment. So what Edward is saying is, well, if your website is free, if you take the free option, why would you pay at all? Well, the only reason why you do that is some people feel that you are more of a legitimate website, or you have more of a legitimate presence if you have a unique URL. That's the www.matthewbuza.com. If you have somebody else's name in there, like www.wordpress.edward.com, some people see that as an amateur move. And if you want to not come across like that, that is a decision you need to make. I have seen authors who don't care about that. They just go with the WordPress thing. It does make it more complicated when you tell people what your URL is. Hey, Edward, what's your website? Oh, it's www.wordpress.edwardisthegreatestwriterofolltime.com. That can be hard for people to remember. It can be confusing. People think, oh, he has a WordPress website, but I can't remember it, that type of thing. That's one of the reasons why you do that. Also, you don't want to be wedded to somebody else's platform. So I'm stuck on the WordPress platform. I'm stuck on the Weebly platform, in the sense that all of your website is hosted through their stuff, and they control they control what shows up on your website, whether it's an ad or some type of messaging. You don't know if they're going to change that going forward. Also, a lot of the free websites, the free options, they reduce what you can do. Like, for example, WordPress doesn't allow you to install certain themes. I don't know if Weebly has some restrictions on the free thing, but I believe they do. You can't do multiple websites. I think there's a couple other options. If you're running a lot of traffic through a free website, I believe you'll have to start paying. Things like that are concerns that you need to worry about. But it's a great question, and you should start free if you don't know where you're going to go. It's a great place to start, and you can always upgrade to have your unique URL. So yes, you can upgrade. Yes, exactly. You can actually upgrade. Exactly. Yeah. So if you do start on the free, you can upgrade up to the, have your unique URL. Hopefully that's not too confusing, but that's my answer. So I would say start with Weebly. If people have started with WordPress, it is what it is. Everything that I do is WordPress, but if you're starting out, Weebly is a great place to start, and I'll show you the reason why, because you don't spend a lot of time. It does have the best themes to fit the design that we've talked about here, but if you have a different design in mind and you want to use your own WordPress thing, that's great. But the problem is WordPress is centered around blogging, and a lot of times you have to if it's like you're working Play-Doh, right? And you're really trying to work it to look like what you want it to look like. Weebly has a little bit different methodology. They're trying to focus on businesses, and so their websites are more business-like as opposed to blogs. If you're using WordPress, you're using blog, and you're converting it into kind of a business page, and that can be kind of complex. A lot of the other options we've already talked about. You don't need to install a lot of stuff. You don't need to do a lot of things. You could just pick and go. It supports banner images, which is a big thing for me. We've seen some of the WordPress websites do that as well, but they do it right off the bat, and that is really good for us when we want to convert to our newsletter. And we'll talk about that coming up. Hopefully that wasn't too... Susan Brown, what do you have? So Susan Brown uses Squarespace for her website, Lorianne, if you wanted to have that question. All right, next, we've talked about the hosting. We've talked about the design decisions. We've talked about the website design. Now let's talk a little bit about the email capture and the banner images. So this is starting to get into, what do my windows look like? What's my front door, my garage look like? What's my landscaping look like for my website? So again, let's go back to our design. And so again, we're talking about the top large rectangle here at the top. The reason why we want to put our email opt-in up at the top, so great. Thank you, Susan, for linking your website. If anybody wants to see Susan's website, she linked it in the chat. The reason why we want to have the newsletter up front is because our books are really cheap. We're often selling our digital books for a couple dollars. Our print books are a little bit more, but the item that we're trying to sell is cheap, and we're trying to sell volume. Very often when you sell cheap things in volume, in order for us to make money, we want to capture the email up front. The more expensive your product, the further down you want the email to go in. So if you're an artist and all of your artwork takes 3 months to build and it costs $10,000, you don't really care about your email list as much. For us, we're trying to build email lists so we can sell lots of books, and that's the only way we're going to make money. So the most important thing, even beyond selling our books, is capturing that email, because we know that email is the most important thing, because when we sell that next book, we want to be able to reach out to those people. So we want to put our newsletter, our email opt-in, right up at the top. And so here's a couple of good examples. I actually have Chloe Holidays. She's on the line here, and Diana. She has, here on the right side, she has when you get to her website, boom, the first thing you do is you can sign up for her short story. Soon her novella will be there. I have Adventure Awaits. This is Eric Carter. First thing you see is, get your free book. I do the same thing right at the front. The first thing you see is I want to give you something. It's like, hey, congratulations, you made it to my webpage. Here's something for free. Right. And we do that so we can get their email. That's the little, you taste the soup. It's the tasting the food at Costco type of thing, right? We want you to taste the goods so you buy more. And we do that by giving them something. And it doesn't have to be a book. It can be a short story. It can be a whole myriad of things that we talk about in a lot of our newsletter, building your newsletter talks. But here we want to be able to no food samples at Costco now. Yes, thank you, Joel. Yes, Corona has destroyed Costco's sales model, but Corona has pumped up the amount of sales that they're making. So, what did they actually lose? But we want to be able to give them a little bit of stuff in order for them to give us our email. We want to do that right up front. So how do we create those beautiful banner images that we see and all the other little pretty things? So this is a job to outsource if you don't know how to art. And for a lot of us, we don't know how to art. And we think we're going to make that beautiful Bob Ross painting, and we end up, making a terrible job of it. So a great place you can start is Fiverr. That's about $5 and above for a job. It's a good place to get these simple things done. I don't necessarily send people there to make book covers or anything of that nature, but it's a great place if you need to get a little bit of, artwork done. It's a great place. If you want to do it yourself, you can go to Unsplash. Also, Pixabay, I believe, is another one. Pixabay. Pixabay. Just Google it; they'll fix it for me. Pixabay. Pixabay. Thank you. And they do royalty-free images. I'll answer that question, John, in 1 second. They give royalty-free images that you can use. So, for example, a lot of the images that we use on the co-op website come from Unsplash. These are free images. Use them. You can credit the author or not. They like you to credit them if you can. I always do where I can, but they give you free images. You don't have to sign anything. You have to pay anything. It's a great place to start. I then use PicFont if you want to throw some wording on there. That's a great place to go. Or you can do what a lot of us are doing now, is using BookBrush or Canva to build those beautiful BookBrush already is. Okay. So John had a question of off the point, but can I get animations made? Yes, you can. You will have to spend money on that. The best place I've seen that done is you have to get money. There's a couple websites that sell artwork and videos that you can purchase, that you can change some wording, and you can do like book trailers or things of that nature. I'll have to figure out what the URL is for that, but you can do some Google searches. Animoto is something that Tony's used, but there's a couple. John, if you just do some Google searches of animations for sale, editing, things of that nature, use those in your Google terms, and you'll find some websites that do that. Or you can do Google searches on how to build a book trailer or something of that nature, and they'll probably link to those sites. I think I've seen some of those videos being about $45, $50 to purchase, and they can tend to be about 30 seconds long, 40 seconds long, and then they'll change the wording in there for you. All right. All right. So let's talk about BookBrush. So BookBrush is probably the most important thing with respect to your marketing content and marketing messaging. Building images that are compelling, beautiful. These are things for your website. These are things for your newsletter. These are things for your Facebook feed, things of that nature, where you can build beautiful graphics for pretty much zero cost. I think they have a free option there where you can do 3 designs a month. Pretending to know how to use Photoshop. We don't want to learn Photoshop. We don't want to learn GIMP. We don't want to learn Pixlr or anything like that. BookBrush makes it very easy for us to import our book cover, drag and drop little icons. So here they have the iPads here with the books on the cover, a beautiful image in the back, which is from our cover, some text and a link. BookBrush is probably the best for this, and I think their monthly fee is about $12. A few of the authors here on the call, if you want to chime in the chat, I think Linda uses it a lot. They also are now offering book cover creation. So BookBrush is a great product to begin to get used to when you want to build those banner images or any other type of content that you want to put on your website. Again, same thing. If you want to get 3D book covers built, so we see a lot of times we see these beautiful 3D book cover artwork that used to be very challenging. They make it very easy to do. So another great, yeah. So there's a free. So Diana said that there's three levels on BookBrush, a free, $12 and maybe $20 a month. So I think that it's non-commit, so you can just do 1 month, turn it off, turn it back on, turn it off. It's a great product to use. Everybody should have an account. It's free to start. It's free to play with. Just don't export any of the images, and you can just play as much as you want. So if we go all the way back here, it's been a long time. The email opt-in banner at the top. That's what we're trying to build for our website. What is this banner linked to? Well, we want to get people onto our newsletter. So we'll either link them to our newsletter opt-in, whether it's MailChimp, MailerLite, SendFox, whoever you're using, or to BookFunnel if we're using a free giveaway, if we're using BookFunnel giveaways, or Prolific Reader, which used to be Insta Freebie. We want to link that banner, whether through a button or just the image, where if they click on it, it takes them to sign up so you can capture that email and get that book. Okay, so that's what that banner is linked to. Some of us have fancy plugins that allow things to pop up and they enter the email in. That's all nice. That's all nice to have, but that's not a requirement up front. It's super important that that banner links to another page or links to the landing page for MailChimp or whatever. And I'll show you in the example website that I built, I just linked it to my MailChimp landing page. Or I've seen other authors link it to their BookFunnel page, and I'll show you an example of that as well. So that's the key thing, is we want that banner to be linked to something, and that is to our newsletter sign up. Okay, here's a good example. Here's my BookFunnel for my book 1 of my Necro series. So if somebody were to click on that link, they would come right to this page, and they would click Get My Book, and it would then deliver to their Kindle. Okay, that's what we want to link that banner to. All right. Other people can use, who use WordPress, you can use MailMunch. MailMunch is a free plugin, has limited features on the free, but we use it for the co-op website. So if you go to the co-op website, you'll see a little pop-up appear on the side of the page, and you can sign up for the newsletter there. And that is the MailMunch plugin. So if you want to actually see that in action and want to sign up, you feel free to go ahead and try that out. It's free. There's free options. It's really easy to install. So if you're on WordPress, you can actually do that as well. So you can have both your banner or your pop-up. But if you don't know how to do the banner, you don't feel comfortable doing the banner, you can do a secondary thing, which is just the pop-up. And there's a lot of features and widgets and levers you can choose in that pop-up, whether you want it to show up every time or only once a week or whatever, or how long does it show up, where does it show up. There's a lot of things to choose there. So and that's all available at the free level. So MailMunch is a good alternative to that. Okay. Additional marketing collateral. You can use it on the social media content. Great for the 3D mockups for BookBrush. But if you want to try something else and do 3D mockups elsewhere, I have a couple links here that allow you to do that very easily. And also Canva if you want to give that a try. Okay. So next we'll talk about a simple website in action. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to hop out here. I'm actually going to go in, and here's the website. So this is a Weebly website. You can see up here on the URL at the top, it says wcpnwtest.weebly.com. I built this website in about 60 minutes, start to finish. So I had everything I needed up front. So I had my book covers, I had my blurbs, I had my banner image, which I made on BookBrush. I had all my links to my Amazon pages, Facebook, and Twitter. It was all in like a folder. I had all the links in a Word document, the link to the BookFunnel page, and my MailChimp landing page. So all of that was linked. I had in a Word document and a folder. And then I went ahead and started building the website. And it took me about 60 minutes start to finish. And it wasn't a lot of work at all. So the big banner image I got from Unsplash. Got some creepy dude walking in the woods. I went ahead and put a 3D book cover here. I added some text, and here's a nice little button. So get my latest book free. When you click on that, it takes you to my MailChimp newsletter sign up. So very simple. I didn't even do the pop-up. It was just a simple click, and it took me there. Okay. And then I went ahead and loaded up my first 3 books in my Necro series. I have the links to buy them. So each one is a link to the Amazon page to buy those. And then I have the text that I put in there. And finally, I put a little bit of a bio. I built this little bio area, my Facebook page, and Twitter. And then I have a couple of things at the bottom. Okay, I did all of this in less than 60 minutes. And I'll show you the back end here of what it looks like on Weebly. Let me just, one moment, please. Let's see. Any questions? No. Okay, so here's my dashboard for Weebly. And you can see the test website is right here. I've been doing all the views. When I edit the website, I just click on it. It goes ahead and opens up the website. This is the back end that we've talked about earlier. So everything is highlightable, if that's even a word. So I can highlight my button. You can move things around. You can adjust text. You can, edit it, blah, blah, blah. So I can undo that. These items here are all you can add in here. There's items on the left side that you can add into your thing. So for example, if I want to add in, let's see, a title. So let's add in a title. You just drag and drop. Now I can edit it. So I say this is a title. You can make it bold. You can underline it, italicize, all the fancy things. You can center it. You can do all these type of edits. Very simple, clean, and you can actually see what the website looks like. You have all of these options here on the left that you can use. You can add new pages. If you don't like the theme, you can go ahead and change your theme anytime you want. You can add in some additional apps and whatnot. But the minute you're done, you go ahead and hit publish, and it's live to the world. So I just added this as a title. So I'll go ahead and hit publish. It went ahead and published. If I open it up real quick, you can say this is a title. Okay. If I want to add a blog, you can add a blog. You can add page for the blog, and then you can do all your blog content from there. Very simple, very clean, very easy to use. It's one of the reasons why I suggest new writers use it, because it is very simple. It's very visual. It's very there's not a lot of barriers for you to do anything here. Okay. All right. Is Google okay? So I'm sorry. Heidi has a question. So is Google okay? We did our website on it. We need to improve on it. Let's see. All right. I'm going to open up your website. You put it in here. Okay. So they have a nice banner on the top. Okay. So you have your embedded form here. You may want to change this to an image instead. This just looks a little off-putting right up here. You do have your Facebook and Instagram. That's great. Links to your books on the side. And you're kind of doing a scrolly thing. So it's a little cluttered. We may want to talk about this afterwards on trying to focus people on what you want them to do. But I do like your top banner image. So there are some things you may want to change. I would like to see, maybe we could talk about if you could send me a link to the Google, how you did your website. I haven't used that before, so I can't really comment on, is Google okay? I know they probably have some back end that you're using. but I don't know if that's a platform that I can recommend or not. So we'll have to talk about that maybe at the end. So that was the website that I was able to build. So my banner image, so just going into, no problem. Yeah, we can talk a little bit about your layout, maybe things you can improve. So that banner image, obviously I took that from Unsplash. It's kind of creepy. I took my image from my first book and I wanted to add it. So in BookBrush, this is the image from BookBrush. I didn't want to get into it here in the talk, but I just took some screenshots. I went ahead and added the 3D looking cover. I did some Facebook images. This is something I can post on Facebook. Obviously keeping the same branding. You can see the same cover image coming back and forth. Real nice, powerful feature. If somebody clicks on this, they go to your website, they see the exact same thing. It's nice to have the exact same thing in two places. Let's see. I read this area. Oh yeah, thank you, Tony. Tony recommended my books. So I was able to use all that and build all of that content in maybe about an hour or so. So it's a really powerful, a great example of that. And I just wanted to show you that. Finally, is changing the format in BookBrush. So Joel has a question or a comment. Is changing the format in BookBrush what? Hard? Easy? All right, I'll have you post more in there. Tell me if that's a question or not. Let's see. I'm waiting for a second. Is it done in BookBrush? Yeah, all of that was done in BookBrush. This was done in BookBrush right here. Is this what you're asking? The Facebook image? Lorianne and Joel are both typing. Okay. I'll let you guys. Yes, it was all done in BookBrush. Correct. Okay. Now we'll talk about the last part before we wrap this up. I know we're over a little bit, and then we can go into some Q&A and questions. Branding concerns. Last thing we want to talk about, naming considerations, taglines, color and genre. Again, this is part of that idea of connecting to your readers, making sure that everything you're doing is simple to use, it makes sense, and carries through all of your work. So for example, I always like to do this one. My name is Terry Polish Dude. Okay, and my series is this crazy epic fantasy naming sounding thing. Okay, so are you going to actually use your name in your URL? Probably not, because that's a really hard name to say, and that's a really hard thing to remember. So for example, Edward, your last name is Sirgoyan, right? A lot of people are not going to know how to type Sirgoyan. And so you may think about using it. You can use it. It's no problem. A lot of people don't know how to spell Buza. It's only 4 letters. But you may think about doing something like Terry Loves Zombies or Terry Loves Dragons or Romances by Terry or Terry's Horror Show. Something that's easy to understand, easy to remember, so that if, for example, if you're on like a radio call, you can say, oh, yeah, go visit my website at Edward Loves to Write, right? Or something like that. The reason why I bring this up all the time is that there was a great podcast I used to listen to called Entrepreneur on Fire. And he ran a great podcast for a number of years. And he realized about 2 years in that a lot of people don't know how to spell entrepreneur. And so he rebranded a lot of his stuff to be called EOF. So he used the acronym EOF as his podcast name because he realized it was hard for people to spell entrepreneur. They always mix up the E and the U at the end. And he kind of laughed about it. He goes, that's a design consideration he didn't think about when he first started. He said, oh, Entrepreneur on Fire, it's a great idea. But he didn't realize that it was going to be a challenge going forward for people to discover him. So we want to make sure that our branding is easy for people to discover us. Okay, next is taglines. How about Yano Papadopoulos? Yeah, it's pretty tough. You may want to workshop that one, Edward. All right. Yeah, and Susan Brown has the issue of that there's 2,000 Susan Browns in the Lake Stevens area. You're absolutely correct. So we want to make sure it's something that's memorable, easy to use, and then can also slightly distinguish yourself or maybe set the genre that you're doing. So taglines. Let's talk about taglines. A lot of people like to put taglines on their books. They like to put taglines into their branding. For example, I write books that thrill because I'm a genre hopper. I write urban fantasy, horror, thriller, sci-fi. But I want to say that you pick up my book, it'll be thrilling. Hopefully, it's thrilling. And that's a way to brand my content, right? Now, you could also brand around a series. If like you only write a certain series, you can brand around your series, like Get Lost in the World of Necromantia, right? Where I have a series writer, I focus, reader has a mainline series that you focus on. Now, if you're a genre, if you like, say you're a romance writer, books hotter than a sauna is a great tagline. And we want to make sure we incorporate that wherever we can, or we saw the earlier one, Adventure Awaits, and that helps to set the expectation to the reader and helps to connect with them, right? So Adventure Awaits. So what is this? This is a adventure action thriller writer. He has the burning match, kind of, reminds people of like Mission Impossible, things of that nature. So immediately he's connecting to the reader that this will be something that's fun, adventure-y. I'm going to take you for a journey, right? So he chose colors, red, the bold red, the black and white in the back, really helping bring forward his genre. Dawson does this as well. He's a James Bond-like writer, right? So he's got his Bond-like character in the middle, Milton there, and he's in a big city, kind of spy thriller, London in the corner because he's British. He's setting the expectation. He's connecting with that reader. Here's another one, Stuart Thalman. Thaman, he does lit RPG. So the front of his book, front of his website, he has what looks to be like a video game cover, right? I don't necessarily like his layout as much, but he does kind of tell you what he does, which is epic fantasy and lit RPG. Okay, and here's another one, Michael Weishart. He does epic fantasy, and you see the brooding Sean Bean, Boromir type of character in the front, and he tells you right up front, okay, this guy's a fantasy writer. This is Game of Thrones. This is, whatever, right? And he's giving away a free book right up front. So he's setting that expectation. He's connecting with the reader. Okay, another one, Adam Neville, which is a good writer that I like. He's a horror writer. He's a trad published writer. He has a bunch of books and a movie on Netflix. He's a horror writer, kind of a supernatural type of writer, and his thing looks exactly like what you would expect a horror writer: dark colors, dark, emotions, things of that nature. Okay. Yes, Tony's tagline is crime fighting in sensible shoes. I do like that as well. Okay, so here's Adam Neville, and he's a trad published author. Great example of what a trad published author is doing the right thing. So he's giving away some short stories, and he's helping to connect with readers that way. Okay, so the trends going forward, we should all try to simplify our layouts, try to simplify those items that are on our webpage. The main page is a landing page. We want to sign up for the newsletter. Everything is becoming a squeeze page, and we'll talk a little bit what a squeeze page, landing page is. We want to squeeze everybody down, and we saw that with the Mark Dawson website, where like straight up front, the first thing he wants is your email. He doesn't care about selling books from his website. Large graphics in the background that are very visual. Little to no white space unless you have a clean minimalist website that is white, right? So you can have white if you have a white minimalist website, but you don't want to have a big graphic and then a bunch of white space. It's kind of awkward. And the good examples are there. And then finally, the wrap up. We want to do two things. Are there any trends genre specific? No. So your trends would be through your graphics, Linda. So Linda had a question: are your trends genre specific? Your trends would just be communicating your genre. So like the colors, what the background says, things of that nature, the graphics that you're using are the trends. So you want to try to align those trends with your genre. So
okay, I just was wondering if the trends that you were talking about the mega graphics and things, is that a genre specific thing? Is that a thriller thing, or is that happening across all genres pretty much?
I'm trying to go to as many I was trying to go to as many web pages of authors that I knew, and I'm seeing big graphics, like everything from fantasy to sci-fi. Like let's pull up Chris Fox's website. I think Chris does it as well. I think it's chrisfoxwrites.com. Nope. So he does sci-fi. Yeah, chrisfoxwrites.com. So big graphics right up front, smashing you in the face. So he does these kind of mech sci-fi stuff. His latest book, his latest thing. So he does the serialized format for using the blog to do that. But right up front, he's got the big graphics smashing you in the face. Sign up for free, get my mailing list. You click on that. Oh, and it took you to claim your books. So here, I can claim my books here. See how quick that was if everybody saw that? So he does sci-fi. Let's say he's got a kind of a fantasy thing he's writing in there, and then this mech warrior wraith story thing. So yes, Linda, that's what I'm seeing. Just big graphics right up in your face that are asking you to do something. So hopefully that answers the question. So remember, your website needs to do two things: point people towards your books so you can make sales, and then connect to your readers. And we do that through a number of items and a number of design decisions for our website. Okay. So next week, on next week's show, more websites. We're going to talk about WordPress plugins to reduce your workload. We're going to talk about landing pages and how we're going to use landing pages and how we can use them to capture readers and to track where people are coming from when they subscribe to our website, our newsletter. And then we're going to talk a little bit about deborgifying your website. So people who blog, they do YouTube, Facebook, podcasting, they like to slap all that onto their website. And we're going to try and make good decisions, good design decisions, while we use the platforms that we're using, whether it's blogging, YouTube, Facebook, podcasting, whatever it is, so that we don't clutter our website with that content. All right? You will be assimilated. You are correct, John. You will be assimilated into minimalist websites. Deborgifying. All right, so that's today's talk. I'll go ahead and stop it. We have an hour and 21 minutes. No, I won't stop yet. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to either put them in the chat, or you can demute and ask me a question. Or
Roland does want you to take his website apart.
Okay. All right. Grounded outlet. Okay, Roland, you're right up front. That is right in my face. High quality images. So if you want to be on the front of your website, you got to be high quality. That's the first thing. Let's see. Yeah, the rest of it is great. It's just we need a better image up front, right on the top. You are focusing on you need to know what you're focusing on. All right, if it's music, that's great. Good. So then it'll take me to your events and it'll tell me what you're going on. If your goal is to sell books, you want this to be your newsletter. Okay. So you just have to make that decision. It's absolutely fine. If music is the main point, then great. And then you can maybe have your secondary and third level interests over here. These should all be links to something. If I'm just going to say right up front. So you have your Malin Blaine here. So this may be a link to your books. This might be a link to your sketching. And then maybe a blog here if you're doing some additional stuff. If you're doing sketching, you may think about hosting your sketches on one of the third-party sketching websites. And I'll try to come up with what those are. Maybe I'll send it to you after, if you actually give me a hot second. I will give you just 1 second. I will get it to you here. I'm scrolling through my phone. This is in real time. Come on. Here it is. Hungry Artist. Where's your website? Artstation.com. That may be a place you want to post all your artwork. Artstation.com. And then link to your place to do that. They showcase artwork there very nicely. So you may want to bring people over there. So if people are coming who are art fans, they may be interested in that, and you may want to connect to them there. That's a great place. It's kind of like a social media for art. Think of it as that way. So books, art, and then maybe blogging here. So this is fine, but you got to clean up that first image. I would love to see a if your main focus is music, Roland, I'd love to see a high quality image of you playing music, and that would really draw you in. Something like that, or maybe even if this can have a scrolling. A lot of times these images here, the big front images, can be scrolling. Maybe you can have it kind of roll through a couple different things. So thanks, good ideas. Great, no problem. Don't want to cut it too much. Any other questions? Feel free to demute. For both Diana and me, we use a theme on WordPress for our websites, which is from the self-publishing site.com. Okay. And you can pick from a couple types of websites, and they have a price, and they do the installation for you. It's a little scary at first. It's not too bad for signing up. We suggest you use the silver package, and then they do the installation for you. And that's what we do to manage our website here. It's just the theme. You're just paying for the theme, and then they install it for you, and then you just make the updates yourself. But it looks like some other people have decent websites too, so you can make those choices. Any other questions? Can you demute me? Yes, Sydney, I will demute you.
Don't have any questions. I did want to kind of talk to you about our website. This is Joe.
Okay, yeah. Let me answer Sydney's website real quick. Question. It seems like she had a quick question, and then we can go into your website.
Sure.
Okay, great. So Sydney, I'm trying to demute you, but I can't. You cannot unmute other participants on the call. So Sydney, if you want to demute yourself, it's this button right here at the bottom.
I got it. Well, I was clicking the image of the microphone and it wasn't working, but I got it.
Okay, cool.
So all right, so I'm a journalist. First of all, I have to figure out what I'm selling if I don't have a book at the moment.
Yeah.
But in the short term, what's my banner image if I don't have like the book cover to put up? Like I put up an image of what do I put an image up of?
You probably would do a picture. So let's see. Let's workshop some ideas. Since you're a journalist, you might do if your article is talking about something. Let's just throw out an idea. Let's say it's clean water, right? You could go on to Unsplash. So go on to Unsplash, and we can do this in real time. Unsplash.com. And we can type in, like, say it's river work, right? So river. So we'll just type in river, and what we could do is pull a beautiful image of a river, something northwesty, if your article is about a northwesty thing, and that could be a link then to your article at the Herald or the article.
But that means I have to change the banner image every time I write about a different topic.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I mean, but how often? How often are you publishing?
Not that often.
Yeah, so that answers the question there, right? So
okay.
Sydney, who is your website geared to? Is it geared to people who would read the stories, or is it geared to newspapers or websites?
That's something I suddenly realize I need to figure out. Who's it geared to? Who am I selling to?
So Sydney, you may want to start with the Minnow theme here, because it's a blogging format. So you can add these beautiful, kind of images with the text below. The text would come below it, so you can have kind of like a banner image here. So you wouldn't do the mega banner because you're more of like a journalist, right? You're kind of doing a blog. and so you would do a blog format, and then maybe you would use Mail Munch to capture newsletters that way. Right? That's a way to get around it, because until you get your book that is for sale.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
Hopefully that. So
that helps.
You're a great example of somebody who would evolve over time of what's happening, right? So
I kind of already went for the big banner. I made some lettering that said "Pop Cry," and I put it on like a moody background of a not very good photograph of clouds. Yeah. Sure. Okay.
No, absolutely fine. No, listen. Yeah. The great thing about doing this is that typically at the beginning, nobody knows we exist, so we can make as many mistakes as we can as you want, and then you can evolve over time. So maybe try to look at the Minnow website, maybe think of it as a blog, and then evolve to something larger.
Thank you.
All right, so Joe, I'm Heidi and Joe. So what's going on? Let's hear some questions.
I was going back to our website, the www.barththebat. I think you were talking about not knowing much about the Google Sites environment or something like that, or
so you said it's Google Sites.
Yeah,
Google Sites. I can
do a share and a quick demo of what I do if you want.
Is this the background? This is it right here. So if you just choose a website, and then they host it for you?
Yep, they host it. I basically signed up for Google Enterprise for our domain, and then I use that for our email. So it's like Heidi@barththebat.com, Joe@barththebat.com. But when you do that, I think it's like $5 per user per month. But when you do that, you get a free, sites.google.com comes along with it. And if you're paying the hosted, the $5 a month, you can actually set up a domain name to link to it.
Okay. Well, I'm on the website right now. I'm making a quick website. It seems very simple to use, and it has all the features that we're looking for: text boxes, pages,
Yeah, if you go back,
themes.
embed is the big one. Embed, that way you can embed your
Yeah, you
like
can put
from Amazon. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yep, as well as from the email list and stuff like that.
Got it. So you can drag these things. Oh, yeah, look how easy that is. So hopefully everybody's seeing what I'm doing right now. So I chose Google Sites. I already have a Google account, so I automatically logged in. But look, I can just drag in all my books. I can upload an image. I can change, book one. So so this is super easy. So if anybody wants to look at this as an option, I would reach out to Joe and Heidi, because this, I don't know how to do all the hosting stuff, all the stuff you just said, but it seems like a very simple way to put a website together. Yeah, this is a good idea. Absolutely.
Yeah. Question 2 is Weebly. Joe, what were you saying about pictures? Weebly.
Oh,
Weebly,
well, one
Joe?
of the things Heidi wanted to do was have a page where we could host pictures of, like kids.
The kids drew.
Yeah, kids doing coloring pictures that they could send to her via email, and then Heidi would put them up on a page.
I would just Instagram that, right? Just do that through Instagram, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, why do a separate page when you can just key it into your social media, right? Because you're trying to link into you have visual things, so pictures is perfect. So Instagram is for that. Young hip parents who want to read books to their kids, right? So Instagram is Instagram and Facebook for grandparents is probably your key demographic, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So if a kid colors a page or something, just have them submit it on Instagram, and then
or have their parents do it, right? Have them share their artwork,
Yep. Yeah. That I've never even. Yeah,
Instagram.
I'm not much for. I don't really know Instagram very well, so that's something I'll have to do some research on.
I make attempts at Instagram.
Yeah. So you already have the Instagram account. It looks like.
Yeah.
There you go. So
yeah. Well, here's a question. Oh no, I just forgot what I was going to say. Never mind.
No, it's fine. So I would just key in. So if you're going to do something like that where you want to share and engage, use a social media platform to help you with that. And since you have kids.
Yep.
Not all kids have an Instagram account, but their parents kind of do, and maybe that's a good way to interface with their parents, right? So Facebook for everybody, the 2 billion people on social media, and then Instagram for the visuals is nice.
The other thing too, you were talking about, I don't know, taglines, or I just thought, should I do something like it? Would this work? Like visit Bart World, because Bart World's kind of the world in my head that
Sure.
Stories were based on. Would that be a good tagline or something?
Yeah, I mean, work with it. I mean, I don't know. Whatever works. Yeah, whatever works for your genre. But yeah, if you have obviously, if you have a tagline like that, obviously it evokes your main character and it brings that in. So it's good with branding, identification, things of that nature. So yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Just check and make sure that the Simpsons haven't used it first.
Yeah, the Simpsons did it.
Knock on wood, yeah.
Yes, you do have the Bart problem.
Well, here's the thing: if I had it one line, Bart World instead compared to Bart Dash World, Bart World.
Well, he still may have Bart World. Knock on wood.
We'll see. We can figure out.
Simpsons episode 302. Check it out now. Any other questions, Linda? Do you have a question or? No? Okay. Great. So I'll go ahead and stop the recording.